Welcome back to another episode of On Deck with Haversine Funding. Today we have a very special guest, this high-impact coach and mentor who coached the men's Charleston basketball team to an NAIA championship in 1982 and is now coaching CEOs and executives on employee engagement, leadership, and growth. Today we have Ken Stibler, the one, the only. I think this guest needs no further introduction. Ken, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you got going on?
I've got a lot going on. I've got two young adults. Let me start there. I've got a son who is recently graduated from George Washington University with a master's degree. He's now got a startup company. Really excited about that. I've got a daughter who will graduate from University of Hawaii as a senior this year in May. And so I will be in Hawaii in May. Somebody's got to do that. So I've got two kids that just push me. They're at a different generation, and I speak on generational differences.
Mm-hmm.
So that is keeping me quite busy to start with on the, the family side. The business side, I speak frequently, literally all over the world.
I think that's an understatement, frequently.
How many, 120 some?
So 120 times I spoke last year. Which was fantastic.
Yeah.
And of course, my wife yells at me with that.
Yeah.
No, I love it. We've been in some of your stuff, so that's awesome.
So fantastic. And, but at the same time, you get an opportunity to impact, and influence businesses. And I work with 10 different companies and their leadership teams last year. And, you get a front row seat to a lot of the changes and challenges that are going on in small businesses today. So I have as much joy today doing what I'm doing as I did when I first started. Mm-hmm. I think I'm a little older, a little smarter. I like to think
wiser. Yeah.
Exactly.
You said 10 companies, but I think that's underselling that just because you coach hundreds of CEOs across the U.S. And even travel to other countries as some of your coaching. And you have workshops, one-on-one. We worked together for 10 years or something like that through Vistage. And you're one of the top chairs, if not one of the top 3 chairs. I forget, you will know, I will not. Master chairs for Vistage in the nation. So I think you have a lot of experience and you hear so many things from all the people you work with of what's going on in, for business owners today. So I think I'm just really happy you could join us and take time.
I'm excited to be here. I've had this circled in my calendar since we first spoke about this. So I'm excited to be here, guys.
Yes. As Jen mentioned, you're on the front lines for, all different industries with key executives, CEOs. You get a front row seat of all the challenges that they're experiencing, what they're discussing. A lot of this, you are leading those discussions and building strategies around these challenges. So I thought it would be awesome to have you join us and kind of go over, what's going on with the economic landscape, and then what are some of those challenges that you're hearing, that you're coaching around, that you're mentoring around, what are those strategies, just getting a overall feel of what's happening in the industry. We're going to focus primarily on in the finance sector. I know you have a lot of experience in many different industries, whether it's finance, automotive, insurance, all the high
technology.
Yes, I could go on.
Means that I'm old, guys. Make sure.
Yes. So we kind of wanted to focus on the finance industry and get an idea of starting off with the big topic, the rise in the interest rates. So how are you seeing that being impacted and talked about?
So let me give you 2 words that I speak on frequently, and that is complexity and uncertainty. And I think if you're the leader of any business over the last 3 years, you've been challenged because it's one curveball after another curveball after another curveball.
Right.
First we had COVID, then we had, interest rates this last year. We had the great quit. So you had employees that are not engaged. So it's been one thing after another. But my comment has been over the course of this last year is that, complexity and uncertainty, simplicity and your message really becomes that antidote. Right? So how clear is your message as a leader? And if you look at the financial markets, it's been tough to borrow money. The banks will tell you, oh yeah, we have money for you, but go try to find it. And so the business leaders who need cash to be able to execute on their growth strategies have had a twofold kind of a challenge. I can't get the money and I can't get the people. Right. I'm sure we can all remember you go to restaurants and half the restaurant wasn't open because they couldn't have enough staff.
Right.
So then we had supply chain that was kind of stuck in the middle on that. And so now all of a sudden supply chain's there. but I got all my inventory in my, warehouse. How much money? I got millions of dollars in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a challenge now of trying to be able to, smooth that out. I think we're in for some challenges this year. I think most of the leaders and companies I work with recognize that there's some challenges.
Mm-hmm.
However, I believe in my heart of heart, my experience is that the good leaders stepped into that void and said, come follow me. Here's where we're going. Here's my expectation of you. Help me get there. I can't do it myself. I need your input, your expertise. And so the good leaders really are doing a great job of stepping into that void and saying, come on, let's go figure it out together. I think we're going to continue to be challenged with the financial area. Interest rates have come down a little bit,
right?
Not significantly enough where, it's going to make that much of an impact. So I think the old adage, do more with less, which we've heard that as leaders forever. I think it's going to really, stick this year. You're going to have to be able to execute on your plan, despite the fact that you don't have as much headcount or you don't have as much supply. And so how do we do that? You got to do it through the engagement of the employees.
And how do you do that? Or what are you seeing business owners do? Because it is, it's hard for businesses to get cash. They can't go to banks. A lot of them are looking to alternative forms of finance, whether it's factoring, asset-based lending,
Absolutely.
whatever form that takes. So they have that hurdle, which means the cost of their money is going to be higher because of the interest rates and the alternative lenders that is giving money out. And you combine that with, higher cost employees if you can find them. So what are you seeing people do to navigate that?
So it's a combination of things. And, obviously that we had the big raises over 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And a lot of companies were proactive saying, we want to keep our key employees. So they would pay them more money, more than the market. I think that has kind of straightened itself out over the course of the last probably 18 months. So we're not seeing these big, huge changes in compensation. If you take a look at what the averages are for next year, it's 4.5% to 6.5% is really what they're saying budget, for that. So I think that's kind of stabilized, but the good people have jobs right now. And if I want to grow, I've got 3 openings or 5 openings, or one of my clients has 18 openings. So it's very difficult for them to achieve their financial numbers without the people.
Right. So how do they, what are the strategies? Are they looking at AI? Are they looking at tech? Are they just looking to find people and
Well, we're doing
so
recruiters obviously play a big role in that.
Right.
And so what I find is that employees will leave their current companies if they can go to a better culture. Mm-hmm. So I speak all the time about culture fit and about employee engagement. And I'll take less money if I go someplace where my voice is heard, where I have an opportunity to participate, and so on. So my message has been pretty simple about this is you got to make sure that you got your house in order and that you've got your people that are helping you grow. I think all of us can grow, but we can't do it on our own. We really need the voice of that employee.
Okay. Absolutely. So what are some of those measures that you try to influence your clients to take? What does that look like? Right.
Yeah. So I work with an organization called Gallup. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people know Gallup as the polling company, but Gallup is a lot more than that. They are literally a leading analytics firm. They measure about everything, and they have a product out there called the Q12. It's the world's most widely used instrument that measures employee engagement. And so if you take a look at employee engagement, over the last 3 years, it's gone down. Mm-hmm. However, they give out an award. It's a Gallup Best Places to Work award. The companies that win those awards, 54 companies last year, their engagements are going up. Why? Well, the companies are dancing differently. They sing differently. Mm-hmm. And so that is an instrument. It's called the Gallup Q12 survey. And they actually changed it this September. It's the first time in 20 years that they actually changed the questions. And they added 4 questions that they feel better represent what's going on in our world today, mm-hmm. about diversity and equity and about burnout and mental health and coaching habits of managers and so on. But that's a product that I would recommend to anybody listening today. Okay. At the same time, we're starting out the new year, and really exciting for me because it's a chance to start over for all of us.
Right.
It's New Year.
It is.
And so for all
new
of
goals,
us,
new plans.
We get this new beginning, right? You get this one time a year. And I'm really excited. I was telling you before we started, I've got 25 or 26 companies I know that are having kickoff meetings.
I was just about to say,
which
right.
is really exciting because you get an opportunity to answer some critical questions. Mm-hmm. Here's where we're going. Here's how we're going to get there. Here's where I need your help. And the good leaders are just having a lot of fun with it. They have themes. And so we're in 24. So how about this for a theme? Delivering more in 24, delivering more to the employee, to the shareholder, to the customer. And so I'm really excited for January and the new start, the new beginning.
To see all the different ideas people are doing.
Absolutely.
We used to do those. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And we are doing some similar things.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I tell everybody all the time, I think you have to have 3 really, really good relationships. 1, you better have a good lawyer. 2, you better have a really good banker, right? And 3, you better have a very, very good tax person. And so that becomes the triumphant there. And whether it's traditional banking or non-traditional banking,
Right.
Jen, we talked about that.
Well, yeah, just because, we've seen the specialty finance industry just pick up in general
Absolutely.
over the last quarter. And all the lenders that we finance and work with and the partners we work with, they've seen the same thing, and they've gotten busier, and they're all looking for more capital, needing more capital. Their clients, the underlying businesses, and then the lenders too, to help support them because banks have just tightened up the credit.
So I think right now, if you go back to last year in January, everybody was predicting we were going to have a recession. Everybody. Traditionally thinking we were going to have a recession.
Right.
I was on the flip side of that. I said, I don't see a recession. Even though all the indices kind of pointed to it, I didn't think there was going to be a recession. I saw some hope there in a variety of different things. I saw it in the CEOs. I saw it in some of the business plans. Yeah, we didn't have the 25% growth we might have had in prior years, but I saw growth across just about every industry we had, right? If you come back into this year, I think we're almost in for a kind of a repeat of that. You got to, and I often say broad view, narrow focus. A lot of us, we try to do way, way too much. And we try to do way too much, we get over our skis, right? And so I say to everybody, you have this broad view, but really narrow your focus down. If you narrow your focus on your employees, what your employees need and what they want, and you have this customer intimacy, I think you win that game, right? Don't try to be all things to all your customers. Be 1 or 2 things that you can excel at. So my message to everybody that was willing to listen is you got to narrow your focus. Focus in on your employees. Find out what they need. Find out what their problems are. Help them solve your problems. And boy, you got a spot all the time. So,
As long as everyone knows and is on the same page as far as here's the goals we have to get for the company.
Right.
What's important to you? How can we put those things together and then simplify that message? Is that what you were saying?
Absolutely. But I'll give you an example. Let's say you're historically grown at a 5% rate and your business plan says 20% this year. I'm like,
But then how?
yeah,
Right.
how are
What
you
are
going to
you
do
gonna
that? It's not realistic if you're historically going at 5%. Now, I had a number of companies here. The mortgage industry was just really, crunched last year. But we're starting to see some things pick up in that area, right? Which is cool. We're starting to see movement. All right, well, we're not going to have a turnaround from a flat year to 20%. But, I think the expectations got to be in line. And I tell CEOs that all the time. I'm like, look, you can't go back into your business and say, we grew at 2% last year, we're going to grow at 20 this year. That's not realistic.
Right. Unless there's a reason why. I'm not saying that that's good or bad or whatever, but I know in some of the lenders we work with have grown a lot over the last, but that's just because of the availability.
That's right.
So there's still business out there. It's just where it's moving to.
I think there's business out there. And so I'm actually fairly, excited about this year. I think the good companies are continue to get really good. I really do. I think the companies are going to grow. I think that we're going to have this availability for cash that's out there. And it's been tight.
It's been tight.
Banks will tell you we have money, but go try to find it.
Right.
Yeah, they're not that willing to kind of give it to you at that point. But I think this is going to be a really good year. I think I think good things will happen to good companies. I think you'll have some companies that are going to struggle because their message isn't clear for their employees. Their message isn't clear for their customers as well.
So what I hear you saying is take the message, figure out what you want to do, talk to your team, and make sure everyone knows what the plan is. They've made those plans together. You listen, take feedback, and then simplify that message so you achieve those goals.
And you said alignment was the key word, right? You didn't use that word, but what you're doing is you're aligning the message, the people, the resources, and making sure we're focused on what's important, and that is solving our customers' problems. I've always said all along, people will hire any of us at any time if we can solve their problems. Well, that means you got to understand what that customer's needs are. No question.
No, I think you had some other things you wanted to talk about specifically that now I cannot think of at the moment, but that's okay because Ken's used to us. He's known us forever.
Yes.
Or we've known him forever and learned from him forever. So.
Yes, we had the pleasure of being a part of one of these workshops where it was really focused around culture and honing down on your strengths, focusing on those to kind of build a better team, better performance, more growth. So looking at into 2024, kind of forecasting, with the groups that you're talking to? Are they doing anything different, just based off of, sort of some of the topics that Jen had hit on? Banks tightening up. Where are you going to find the capital? One of the things that she had also mentioned was with the specialty finance space. Is that an option that these groups are looking at more so now that banks are kind of?
I think everybody they're looking at alternative everything at this point. I think as a leader, you've got to be able to look and say, okay, what are the tools in my toolbox? Right? I might use this. I might use this. Right. Alternative financing certainly is right in front and center. Right? If you can't get it traditionally, you have to go non-traditional. Haversine is sitting in a pretty good place at that point.
Yeah, we like it.
No, exactly.
Yeah, is that one of the big topics of conversation that you're having?
Or is it kind of a side conversation? Like, what's really like the top 2, 3?
Right.
So the biggest thing really has been the stabilization of the workforce. Okay. It's tough as hell to fill spots.
Why do you think that is?
It's funny because we had the Great Quit.
Yes.
Right. So why did we have the Great Quit? Well, there's government money. You can blame it on a lot of different things. And so people were not coming to work the traditional sense, right? And if you look at the number of business license startups, a lot of people said, you know what, I'm going to go start my own company. I like this lifestyle thing living in Boise, Idaho or whatever. I don't want this rat race anymore. So I think we're fighting with that a little bit. At the same time, I just think people are looking at, this work-life balance. It's more than they ever have before. I think COVID really kind of sparked that. But at the same time, COVID sparked a lot of other innovation in businesses. And we talk about hybrid work. So hybrid's not going away. The challenge is, though, if you read what SHRM or Deloitte or Gallup says, like 60% of the jobs in the United States cannot be done remotely. If you're a surgeon, you're going to be working. Right. If you're working at a restaurant, you're there. So the challenge for leaders is how do we have a hybrid environment where have some workers that can work hybrid and some that can't. And so that blending of that and the ability to do that is going to be interesting.
So we had some that's like kind of a little off topic, but still for things that we've seen people change for this year. While they're looking for capital, they're looking for more revenue resources, and they look to, as I tap on the thing, diversify more. Whether that's different products they've added in and things. Are you seeing that from the companies you talk to? A ton.
But for example, if I want to introduce a new product to the market, I need money to do that. Right. So I need capital, whether that's going to be on advertising or if I'm manufacturing it. So there's kind of two sides to that piece of it. You also need a sales force to go sell it.
Right.
But sales is a different animal today. You have traditional and non-traditional sales. You got online sales. Right. So I think you got to look at a lot of different things.
I don't do too much.
Yeah. The job of a CEO today is more complex than it ever has been in the past. So complexity and uncertainty, right?
Right.
Back to your themes.
Absolutely. Amazing.
Yeah.
There you go.
Come full circle. Yeah, I think that's a conversation that we're hearing a lot as well being passed around when you mentioned the remote workforce, because that's a different way to how are you going to manage someone that's not, in the door next door? It's a different style. How are you connecting with your team that's not there? And that's becoming more of the norm.
So I'll give you an example. So, about 3 months ago, Zoom, everybody knows Zoom? Mm-hmm. They required all of their employees to come back to the workforce.
I saw that.
And I was speaking that morning and I got, hey, everybody, take a look at this, right? So, and what's happening here is you've got old leaders like myself, and we're used to pulling a lever and moving a dial. And the businesses would always react a certain way. Well, now you've got leaders that are moving the dial and the lever, and the businesses are just not moving. So that's going to require different thinking. What got you here can't get you there. So you're going to have to look at things a little bit differently. It's not the traditional way of how we used to grow our companies. Right? Now, obviously, I think capital is required. You need capital for a variety of different reasons.
But it's not just capital. You have more issues, more concerns, more challenges.
More complexities. What dial are you moving? What lever are you pulling? And so I go back to this, new leadership blueprint. It's about mindset. You got to think differently. Skill set. Do you have the skills or does your team have the skills? And I'll argue that next level leader, that's where that biggest opportunity is.
Because no one can do it alone.
Yeah. But if you can get them to have some ownership and accountability, again, the Zig Ziglar quote is, you don't build a business, you build the employees, and it's the employees that'll build your business for you. So it's mindset, skill set, and then tool set. What tools are you using? ton of out of the box stuff. So I think the good leaders are kind of the good leaders are touching all those 3 areas.
Yeah. So, one of the biggest themes of this conversation was refining your team, working off their strengths, building that culture. What is there anything else that you would want our listeners to walk away with?
Oh yeah, takeaways.
Yes.
Takeaways.
I'm sure. Yes.
Takeaways.
Yes.
I'm a big takeaway guy.
Ken, because 2 things is easy and 3rd requires critical
You were
thinking.
Such a good student.
Yeah.
I was a student. I'm not now, but I was
I
then.
know. So we regress. Right? It's like going to the gym and then you don't. I know that.
This is the time you use your listen up.
Yes. Boy, if I were to give you some takeaways, I think there's a couple that I would probably try to share with everybody. Is number one, and this is a personal takeaway for me, is when I was the CEO of multiple companies, I always felt that I was the number one person that had to execute strategy. And boy, what a fake out that was. You can't do it yourself. If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, get a team. And the acronym for team is together, everyone achieves more. Get your team, communicate to them. And it's okay to say, look, I don't have the answer here, and get their view. My 26-year-old son, he is smart as a whip, and he looks at things very, very differently than his dad does. So I would say go back to your team, make sure they're involved in that process, or as my Canadian friends call it, process. All right? Yes. And make sure they're part of that. Here's where we want to go. I need your help to get there. A lot of CEOs don't like asking for help. That's being vulnerable. In the old days, vulnerability was looked at as a weakness. Now I'll tell you it's a strength.
Absolutely.
So I think, you number one, ask for help. Number 2 is I'll tell everybody, and I'll challenge all the leaders to go step into that spot and say, come follow me, and get your message crystal clear about where you want to go and how you want to get there, and get your team to help you go in that direction. And then 3 is, I would definitely, make sure I'm talking to Haversine for any of my funding needs.
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah.
Was that good on that one, guys?
I like that takeaway.
Yeah.
Critical thinking.
Exactly. You know what? Honestly, I tell you what, we're under such stress, all of us. And I have a real fun story. We're working on some strategic planning, and the word came up, create space. So what does that mean? Well, I looked at everybody in the room and I said, you guys are stressing me out. This was an intact team. And I said, when you're on an airplane and the oxygen mask comes down, what are the words that they tell you?
Put on yours
Put
first.
it on yourself first.
Yep.
And so I mentioned this to the team. I said, you guys are stressing me out. I said, you guys are just chasing after your every single day. So we talked about it with the senior team, and they have part of their strategy this year is to create some space. What I mean by that is you got to let people work, on the business, right? Not necessarily in the business every day.
Right.
So this company has taken a step back. They still want to achieve their goals, but they think they can do it a lot more effectively when people are healthy, both mentally and physically. So go create some space for your employees. Don't have them running from one meeting to another. So there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I feel like I could sit here and just take gems from you all day.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Ken, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure. I know you could sit here and talk about this all day, every day. That's what you do.
You haven't asked me any jokes about Jen. I'm
Yeah.
ready to go there for sure,
Yeah. We're saving that for the short.
Yeah.
But it's such a pleasure having, the opportunity to work with you in the past and to bring you back today to kind of share some of your knowledge with all of our listeners. I think you provided a lot of takeaways that they should be taking note of and implementing in their kickoff meetings that they're having this year. It's great to have you first guest of 2024.
Happy to be here.
Yeah,
Jen.
yes.
I've had this on my calendar. So
Oh, we have too.
talk about it.
We
Let's
have
go.
also. Yeah. So thank you so much for
Very welcome.
joining us. I can't wait to have many more talks with you in the future.
We will.
Thank you so much, Ken, and thank you so much, Jen, for joining us today on this episode. And remember, listeners, stay informed, stay inspired, and stay on course to growing your financial platform.